Hey everybody, we are bringing in Katie Chen Maza. She is the creator of the Financial Creative Club for Actors. I'm a big fan of Katie. I was in her course, and coming from the acting side, I feel like it really is a fantastic idea to get our finances in order. A lot of times as actors, we're so focused on the creative side that we forget the financial side, and it really can affect our freedom of choice when it comes to headshot photographers, when it comes to courses, when it comes to really investing in our careers and the money that we do need to be able to do that well so that we can progress forward. So I'm gonna hop in, I'm gonna bring in Katie right now. He has a great tool kit full of very proactive steps that we can take. Oh, here I am. I'm just talking all this great stuff about you and money.
Yay! We're
Yay!
here.
We made it.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Katie, for being here. So, why don't we just start for anybody who doesn't know you, because I feel what you do is really imperative to having a successful acting career. So you could just
Well,
introduce
thank
yourself.
you. I'm Katie Chinmazara. I am a financial wellness coach, and I'm also I'm trauma informed as well. And so what I do is really help creative freelancers and entrepreneurs like make more money, worry less about it, and achieve true financial freedom, so that you can actually live the life that you really want to live. And my background is that I was a TV producer and development executive for about 15 years before I actually made this transition into financial wellness coaching. And so I really understand what it's like, to be a creative person, to work in the entertainment industry, and to really try to figure out how to manage your finances when your income may be inconsistent. And, especially now with the strike happening and everything that's been going on, it's like, there's more reason now to actually make sure that your finances are in order so that you can actually live the life that you want to live and be as creative as you want to be too.
I love that. It's important because, if we're going to talk about like I think about the olden days back on the studio, right? Like in the 40s and 50s, think about it. Like managers had people, I'm trying to think of this one actress and I can't remember their name, or maybe it was an actor, where the manager, and this was in, I think, the 40s or 50s, had asked the parents for $10,000, which was a lot of money back then, because that's really what it takes. If you think about the amount of years that you invest in headshots and classes, in casting director workshops, and in all the things that you need to really put yourself together as an actor,
absolutely.
it's a lot of money. And I think you do what I love it. Yes. Can we do that?
I'm like hitting wrong buttons here.
Just a little disco. little disco going on. So, I really am such a big fan, and I can admit that I stopped halfway through the program because it freaked me out. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? I really have some things to face financially, because we're just not trained to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really interesting because I think and I tell everybody this, every single person I work with, as soon as we start talking about the actual numbers, right? Like if we're like, let's look at what numbers are coming in, what's going out, then everyone starts to kind of freak out, and I said, this is the hard part, right? This is the part where it's actually not an easy thing to do. And so, but once you get beyond that and start tracking your numbers, things will get so much easier, because our minds tend to worry about the things that we don't know about. It starts to create stories, right? The more unknown something is, it's like the monster in the closet, where you start to believe that there's a monster, and the monster keeps getting bigger and bigger as long as you're not actually going into the closet and looking inside. But once you actually start to look at those numbers and you understand it, right, then it starts to get easier and easier, and you can start to make a plan from there, and then your mind starts to calm down.
So what would you say, Katie? Because I know what I really love about your course is that you talk
Mhm,
a lot about the
mhm.
what and the how. So could you
Yeah,
explain that a little
so
bit?
my approach is like a more holistic approach to finances because I really believe that, well, one, I mean, you can get a lot of books about personal finance out there. There's tons of stuff, right? And there's some really good stuff out there. And yet your habits may not change, right? The things that you're doing may not change. And it's also because we're not dealing with some of the emotional pieces around money. Money can be so emotional, right? It's the reason most couples fight about money. It's the reason, number one reason most couples get divorced over is money. And that's why it's because there's such an emotional tie to it. And it's tied to our sense of safety, our sense of security. So we have to start to look at those pieces first, right? Like I really believe that it's so important that you're looking at how did you grow up with money? What did you do as a kid, right? Like, or what did your parents do when you were a kid? And how did they operate? If they never taught you about money, but you absorbed it just by observing their behavior, right? Were they fighting about it? Was your dad or mom really stressed out at the kitchen table when taxes were due? Were you were you seeing like how people at church or anything else were like judging each other about their outfits or about any of that kind of stuff, and or even your friends, right? Like some people I know like went to some fancy private school as a kid, but they weren't necessarily on the same level. And so then they started to associate what did that mean about themselves, right? So there are
Mm.
all of these stories that can be tied into how we're now operating with money, right? And the way we're operating with money now can be a very unconscious way of doing things. And that's why you're like, oh, I always end up spending too much money on this thing, and I don't even know why, right? Like I don't even need that thing, but yet I'm still buying stuff unconsciously. Or recently, I was actually talking to a client, and she came up with this phrase that I love, which is called self-conscious buying. So what she does is like she goes into a store, and if it's like a mom and pop store that's like and then no one is in there, right? Like she instantly gets this feeling that she needs to buy something, even if she doesn't want anything, even if there's nothing in the store that she likes. All of a sudden she feels self-conscious that she's the only person in the store. She feels self-conscious that she wants to help this like small business owner, you know, and she doesn't want to like leave the store not buying anything. So she ends up buying something even if she didn't want to, right? And that's really so much of the programming like from her childhood too. And so there's all of these things that are so tied into our personal finances that it's not just about the money, right? And then of course the money piece is the practical pieces are important because this is what I have to say, right? Money is of this earth. We can't take it away when we pass. So we have to do some very earthly practical things in order to actually bring in the money we want. We can't just sit there and manifest and say, oh, I just want money to kind of come to me and I'm not going to do anything for it, right? And I mean, you can try that, but most likely it's not working, right? And so that's why we have to
Right.
combine
Right.
both things is like the emotional, the spiritual, and then along with the practical pieces about money.
I love that. And so because I think that you have really
Hmm.
practical
Hmm.
tools that I'm using still that are really helpful, useful. And one of the things that I find that I often
Hmm.
hear from actors, and I get it because when
Yeah.
I was in Los Angeles, I had 3 jobs, and I felt like I was like, oh my gosh, I never have any money.
Yeah.
Like that really became my story. And it's interesting that you're
Yeah.
sharing about this girl going into mom and pop stores. I totally share that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this person really needs
Hmm.
money. I'm going to have
Hmm.
to buy something from them. And at the same
Right.
time, it's like,
Right.
not my job.
Right.
Like, I don't know that other people haven't, somebody could have come in and
Exactly.
spent like $5,000
Right.
there. like 10 minutes
And
before me,
this is
you
what I
know?
told this client is that, money, because it's an exchange of energy, right? Like if you're just giving them money out of pity, right? That pity money isn't really helping them to really grow and thrive, So instead of doing it out of pity, it's like, let's do things out of really great intention rather than, yeah, yeah. So,
Mm.
yeah.
I dig that. And I've recently been encountering a lot of
Mm-hmm.
actors who are signing up
Mm-hmm.
for classes, and we offer a payment plan. And so I'm like overjoyed at the amount of actors because of the pandemic that have been able to
Mm-hmm.
get a remote job to
Mm-hmm.
really fully support them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the investment is so easy for them to make. And then the way that I see actors
Mm-hmm.
show up to class who
Mm-hmm.
have are
Mm-hmm.
comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
right, within their money lives, uh, versus actors who have joined the course and then share with me halfway through, hey, listen, I don't know what to do. My credit card declined. I'm going to try to do this. And
Yes.
it's just so stressful. And then the experience inside the
Yes.
class
This
is
is
kind of sucky because they can't fully show up
this
without
is
bringing
such
this
a
like
good
bag
point.
of
And
guilt
this is
with
so
them.
interesting that you're bringing this up because, we didn't talk about this ahead of time. But, one of the things that I've been talking about, especially like around a strike or when you get laid off or anything, is that there's something that happens when you're in scarcity mode, right? When you're in scarcity survival mode, it makes it harder for you to actually receive what you need to receive and to be as creative as you possibly can be, and to be able to even get the auditions and all of the other things that you need to have, right? So the more that you can get yourself out of scarcity mode. So one of the things that I say about this strike is that even though it may seem counterintuitive, like most of us are going to think, I want to start to pare down. I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff. I'm not going to pay for this. Instead of doing that, I actually want you to think about how you can expand, right? And it seems counterintuitive, but I know, but just listen to this, right? It's like, you've got to start to look at even small ways of expanding without spending a lot of money, right? So what does that look like? It looks like really taking care of yourself, maybe like even doing a luxurious bath or going outside into the sunshine and playing and really expanding your capacity to receive. Okay. And then in terms of like signing up for a course or anything, if it's not too much of a stretch, right, then yes, absolutely, because that's showing yourself that you still have the capabilities of expanding and receiving and being able to take in from the universe, like all the good things that are meant to be for you in this world, Whereas if you're in survival mode, all your brain is thinking about is surviving, right? All your brain is thinking about is that
Yeah.
food, water, shelter. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And that's all you're able to do. And then you're not going to be able to, be able to be creative. You're not going to, it's going to be so much more challenging for you to receive those auditions, and then even if you did get an audition, you're not going to be performing at your best, no matter how much preparation you do, right? Because
Mm.
yes, because your
Why? Can
whole
you talk to
being,
that a
your
little bit?
mind and your body are only concentrating on what can I do next to survive, right? Not what can I do to be creative and to give to this role and to this, to this audition, to this self-tape, whatever I'm doing. That, and so you're competing against those interests, right? And the interest of survival is much stronger than the interest of creativity and really performing it in your best, to your best ability. So
Yeah, I can't agree with you more, because I hear it a lot. And like, also, what I love about this new virtual world is that it really gives
yes.
actors a lot of flexibility as far as being able to have an investment job, right? Quote unquote investment job, and be able to still put themselves on tape, and also to be mobile. So you don't necessarily, you're not tethered to a really expensive city. You could be in New York, but maybe living a little bit outside of New York and take the train into the city. So one of the things that I wanted to touch on was, I guess, was that, you know, the mobility of the industry and how it's allowing actors to, I think, make wiser investments. Like I've heard actors say like, well, I'm in LA, but I'm thinking about moving back to New York, or I'm in New York and I'm thinking about moving to Atlanta. Is there any advice, Katie, or you know what, how about this? What is like one practical tool? Because I know you teach, you have this great system in place that I feel like allows, I can only speak from my own experience, like my freak out mode is like gradual. You know what I mean? So I can at least see where my big freak out mode is and where I fall off and like where I need to get back. So is there one practical tool that you would gift everybody that could help them like after our call?
Yeah, one of the things that I love to give out is an idea of doing a self-worth jar. Yeah, and this is and mainly because our self-worth is equal to our net worth. Okay. The opposite isn't true. Lots of people with high net worth may not have high self-worth, and that's when they get into trouble and go bankrupt. You know, a lot of lottery winners go bankrupt within 3 years, and mainly it's because of their own self-worth. So you're increasing your self-worth, which also helps you in terms of your acting career and any other thing that you're doing, right? And so, so in order to increase your self-worth, it's like, it's a practice that we must do. And so we're so good at receiving all the negative stuff, right? We're so good at telling ourselves like, oh, you're so clumsy, or you didn't do that right, or, you know, blaming ourselves for things. So one part of the day, what I want you to do is actually write down something positive about yourself and put it into a jar, preferably a clear jar, so that you can actually see it growing. And it works just like compound interest. So speaking of money, you know, the more that you do this, the more that it grows, right, in terms of your own self-worth. And so you want to start to create, it doesn't even matter what you're writing down as long as it's positive, right? It can be, I had a good hair day, or somebody gave me a compliment that meant something to me, or, you know, everything seemed to kind of go my way today, right? Like you know, it was, you know, I felt really good in my body, you know, whatever it is, just write it down and put it in there. And then whenever you do need a kind of a boost, right? Like whether or not you're going into a self-tape, pull it out and read through everything that you wrote. You know, I had a client one time, when the first time she read through everything, she actually said, I didn't recognize who wrote all of those things. And it's because we're so far removed from our higher selves sometimes, right? And so that's why this practice is so good, to kind of get ourselves into the practice of really recognizing our higher selves, recognizing that we are beautiful and whole and complete and resourceful and all of those things, you know? So it's a really beautiful practice. So that's one of the things that I would definitely tell people to start, like today.
Okay, I love that. Steven says he has a self-worth jar and it says joyful on it. Because it's interesting, right? How much self-talk that we do, like negative. I've been talking a lot about in class, Louise Hay. Like I found her, you know, on YouTube. There's like a ton of YouTube videos. And it's really interesting exactly what you're talking about. And that, particularly when it comes to finances, because I do feel like creatives, a lot of creatives struggle with that financial self-worth part. And as the career grows and the paycheck grows, and exactly what you're talking about, the self-worth can stay the same.
Yes.
If you're not working on that. So, you know, Louise Hay talks about saying it in the mirror, and it's hard.
That's actually another, that's another self-worth tool that I talk about too, is Louise Hay's mirror work, which is simply just looking at your own eyes in the mirror and telling yourself, I love you, right? And you keep saying it. You can say it for like a minute or however long until you really feel it. And it feels a little weird. It feels like Stuart Smalley from SNL, if anybody remembers that reference. right? But it actually works, and it works because there's a difference between like your partner telling you I love you and you saying it to yourself, right? Because we have to start there. You know, the more self-love we have, the greater capacity we have to love others. Right? The less we love ourselves, the less we can love others. It's really proportional to that. And we may feel like we're loving somebody to our full capacity, but not until you actually love yourself to your full capacity before you can actually love someone else to that full capacity.
Yeah, and you know, financial
Yes.
stability is a big part of it, right?
Mhm.
Financial responsibility is a big part of it. And I think that also
Yeah.
allows you to set boundaries. You know, I've had plenty of actors say, like, hey, listen, I was on set and like I went to sign my contract and there was something in my contract that wasn't
Mhm.
like, and I called my agent. And I've had other actors say, like, I didn't want to bother my agent, like I didn't know. And then lo and behold, 6 months later, they're like, I really wish I would have done that. I don't know why. And then they
Yes,
have
and
like a self-worth gap,
yes, and I've worked
you
with
know?
so many clients who have agents, and yet their agents didn't even negotiate for what they wanted, right? Because you have to first, it starts with you. You have to know what you want first, and then be able to communicate that very clearly to your agents so that they can go then and advocate for you, right? You are your best advocate. And I'm a huge advocate of negotiating. I love negotiating. I consider myself a very good negotiator. I've helped so many clients negotiate. And the number one thing is it starts with you and what you want, right? Like you've got to be so clear about what it is that you want. And then also really understand what it is that you deserve, right? Because that's the thing I keep seeing over and over again too,
Ah,
especially with actors. They're like, oh, I feel so grateful to just even be on this show or to get this, co-star role or whatever. I don't want to rock the boat, right? Even if they've been on a show for season after season after season, they will still stay around the same amount of money that they were making in the first season because they're nervous and scared. And this is the other key is that sometimes our agents are also in that scarcity mode or in the, not a great money mindset. And so they're also not asking for the money because they're also kind of like, oh, let's not rock the boat. Let's just keep, so and so in this role. And, great. They're asking them back every season. Great. Well, let's just leave it, and not do anything until you say, look, this is what I really need and I want to ask for this, and then I've seen it so many times where it's like they've been on several seasons and then somebody else may come in and a new person comes in on season 4 and all of a sudden that person's actually making more than they are. Right.
yes.
Yes, so it's really important that
Oh,
you're advocating
yeah.
for yourself because think about it this way, like budgets are set in a way because I was a producer, right? So I know, and I was a development executive, so I know it's like there's a certain amount of budget. If you don't take that amount of money, they're so happy because all they're doing is moving it to the next person who is going to ask for that money, right? And so you're just passing along the money that really is for you, and you're saying, no, thank you. No, I don't want any more money. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never thought about
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. You know, well, it goes also, to the scarcity thinking of like when I will meet an actor, let's say like at a consultation, and I will ask them because I want to know if we're a fit. I want to know if how I can help this actor. And I would say more often than not, when I say, hey, what do you want? I just want to be working. And then I always said, great. So I know some like background for your work that you could do. No, no, no. I don't mean that. Or I
Right.
just want to be auditioning. I
Right.
just want to co-star. And we show up, I said this on something else, like we show up with a thimble, right? We're like, okay, here's
Mm-hmm.
what I want from this big universe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to take home
Mm-hmm.
on set,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. It's like the universe will give you what you want but as long as it's like what you believe you deserve, right? And so if your belief that you
Yeah.
deserve only this much, that's what it's going to give you. That's all, right? And so why not go for the bigger dreams, but also really have clarity around it, right? Understand what it is that you want and why do you want that, right? Have an intention, because the intention is going to go a long way. And the intention is also what people are going to read as your energy around certain things, you know, and energy is everything. So, yeah.
Oh, for sure. Nona
Mm-hmm.
said, I think they're afraid of losing the job.
Yes.
Yeah. And when we go in with that mindset,
Right.
what's going to happen? We're going to lose a job, as opposed to like, where we're headed, where we want to, our North Star, when that's clear for us. I think it makes it one, and we have to work on our self-worth. I think it makes it much easier to attract the things that are going to help build our career, build our self-worth, and build our confidence in ourselves. And that just like, right, like that bleeds into everything, which I think is
so
cool.
and yes, and fears are not real, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's only what we give to them, right? They're just thoughts.
You know, I think somebody said, I think there was another coach who said fear is feelings of expressions appearing to be real, right? So it's actually not a real thing. And so, and yet it can hold us back on so many things, right? And that's why it's great to have a coach, right? It's great to have a coach so that you can work through some of those fears so that you can make yourself unstoppable, because otherwise you're blocking yourself. You're blocking yourself from all of the things that you can be doing in this world, you know, just because you're afraid. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, Katie. I want to just open it up. Does anybody have a question for Katie? Because we're going to wrap it up here in the next like 3 minutes. We're talking about money, everybody. So any money questions or any fears around money that Katie can help you navigate, please feel free to put that in the comments. What, like, as far as like the strike goes, I love what you said about expansion, really expanding into that. What is a tool that you feel like is useful to be able to do that in this kind of downtime?
Yeah, so it is getting into some of your creativity. Like, what is it that you love to do that feels really creative and freeing? And I want you to actually do that thing, right? So, you know, it has nothing to do with a job per se or having money per se. It's actually really getting into that creative play area of your mind, you know, to start to get out of scarcity, to get out of that feeling of like everything's kind of caving in and everything is starting to shrink down. You know, instead it's like, okay, what are the things that helps me to feel like I'm living the bigger life, right? Just asking yourself that question, you know, and that can be so many different things, right? Like for me, it's dancing. Like sometimes I'll, you know, I'll just like start playing some music and like dance around in this office, you know, to a great song that I love, or, you know, some song that I'm obsessed with recently.
It's so fun. I play ping pong. Like I love ping pong. But yeah, I think those kind of, and like at night, like I just tend to journal like all the good things that happen. And even like the tiniest things that I wouldn't even, like I saw a whole bunch of butterflies and that night I wrote down like, oh, those butterflies were amazing. And it just reminds me of like the abundance that's not financial. That's just in like love, finances, you know, all the things. But nature is just such a good healer. I feel like.
Yep.
You know?
Nature is beautiful. Yeah.
So it's abundant, and we you know, it needs
absolutely
us.
Yes, nature is abundant. Think about it this way, like I'm looking outside right now and it's like there's, you know, there's an abundance of flowers and herbs, and then also the butterflies and hummingbirds, you know, it's all over, right? Every leaf, every blade of grass, right? Like nature is abundant. We are abundant. Our nature is actually abundance, right? It's only when we go against our nature that then the fears come up, you know? So again, yes, get into nature, do something that feels creative, that feels like you're getting, you know, and asking yourself the question, what would make me feel like I'm living the bigger life in this moment? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Katie, I love this.
this was such a great
Thank you so
conversation.
much.
Yeah,
Like I really, yeah, I really
absolutely.
appreciate you taking the time. And listen, I think that your current course is like you already sold out, you're already at capacity. So I saw that on your website. But how, for anybody else that wants to check out your course, when is
Yeah,
the
the
next
next
round
one
and
will
how
be
do
in
they do that?
August. But yeah, stay on my list. Come and sign up for, you know, I have a couple of things. Either go to my website, go to the link in my bio. There's a few things. I'm also doing a workshop for people who've lost their jobs called Thriving After Job Loss at the end of this month. You know, it's over Memorial Day weekend. We're doing it in person here in Los Angeles. So if you're not in Los Angeles, I mean, you can definitely fly in, but it's probably easier if you are here in Los Angeles. And it's 3 days, and we're going to go through the grief process, because so many times when we're actually in after a job loss, we go through the same cycles of grief as if we were not, you know. And so we're going to look at that, and then also how to reset our nervous system and get out of that feeling of like everything is terrible and I just want to hide under the covers, to figuring out like, okay, what is my next step? Do I want to continue doing the things that I want to do, or do I want to pivot? What do I want to do now? And what is my purpose? And start to open up that channel. And then also in terms of finances, how do we create a different way of doing things while we're not working, right? While money isn't coming in, because there is a completely different way of doing things that it includes being in a more expansive mode rather than contracting. So if you're interested in that, there's a link in my bio for all of the details on that retreat.
And then will you do, because somebody's saying they're in Paris, I know that we have people pretty much globally here. So as far as I'm having access to you, that'll be
We're
in
going to
August
do
for
a
a
5-day
masterclass,
challenge,
and
a
then
free
for
5-day
program.
challenge in August. Yeah. Yes, that
I
challenge
love
is
that
amazing,
challenge.
right? Like every single day, we're going to give you some tools to actually help you to feel that expansiveness, and then to also have some both practical and spiritual tools to help you too. Yes.
And so they go to, is it Katie Chen, is it
They
Financial
can go to
Creative Club for Actors, FC?
katiechenmazzara.com. Yeah, and that's where they can
Okay,
sign up to be on my
great.
list, and then we'll let you know when that opens up. Okay.
Okay, okay, great. Katie, thank you again. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Katie gave some great financial tools for us to be able to have a reset mindset around money, and to be conscious about our spending, and to really find self-worth, so that we know that we're worth more money.
Thanks, Mel.
So Katie,
Thanks,
thank you again.
everyone.
Really appreciate it. Okay,
Bye.
I'll see you soon. All right, everybody. See you.